Ms. Yip Pin Xiu.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to declare my interest as an athlete and take this chance to suggest how we may advance by optimizing the resources that have been committed to sports. Let me start with a little background. Oops. When I was 5 years old, I saw my brothers learning to swim at the pool. Back then, I already had my condition and needed leg braces to assist my gait. But seeing how much fun my brothers were having, I asked my parents if I could join them and learn how to swim. That was in the 1990s. Back then, persons with disabilities in sports were nearly unheard of, and it was almost 20 years too early for inclusion to become the buzzword it is today. The Singapore Disability Sports Council, the charity that was tasked to offer a wide range of sport at both elite and non-elite levels, had only then hired its first 2 staff. On hindsight, it probably took a lot of guts for my swim coach then to take on a student with disability. But if not for her courage to include me, I may not be here today. We are no longer in the 1990s. We hear about inclusion every other day. But out of close to 100 swim clubs in Singapore today, I can count the number that have opened their doors to persons with disabilities in 5 seconds. I hear stories from my peers on how they started in swimming, which can almost be considered a national sport for our little island. For able-bodied friends, the opportunities are boundless. Parents are spoiled for choice on whom they can engage to coach their children. But for parents of children with disabilities, it is a different story altogether. Not every child has been as fortunate as me to meet a coach that brave. Not many will be if we do not set out to make the changes. Public efforts in raising awareness of persons with disabilities have been increasing. Yet, however, target individual transformation, of one to do their part to create a more inclusive society. The outcome, therefore, depends heavily on the individual's own effort to accept this change. We know that there are 2 possible outcomes. 1, the individual is convinced, and 2, the individual is not. This gives us a 50% probability. Let's take the first scenario where the individual is convinced and ready to make a change. Are our systems prepared to support such a change? On the second scenario where the individual has not been convinced, are we ready to let it go, or can we create an environment to motivate that transformation further? If we have neither the systems nor the environment, then the probability of the returns on our investments will likely drop. It is thus rather compelling to look at how we can boost our returns. Can inclusion be scaled up beyond the individual and into the system? How can this change take place? I will go back to the context of sports with which I am most familiar with. What Sports Singapore has done is commendable. Since the 2000s, Sports SG has increasingly opened its doors to support athletes with disabilities. Most schemes like Specs Carding, Specs Scholarship, Specs Business, and campaign funding are now accessible to athletes with disabilities equally as to able-bodied athletes. In the last 2 years, Sports SG has also started to recognize coaches of disability sports. Yet, while these transformations take place on the ground as a swimmer, I am not recognized as an athlete with the National Sports Association for Swimming. Instead, all athletes with disability, regardless of their sport, continue to be represented by the Singapore Disability Sports Council, known as SDSC. Today, with all the evolution that has taken place in Singapore over the years, all that Sports Singapore and SDSC have done, I am given the chance to be here. So here, I voice my dream of a Singapore where sports is a united front for Singaporeans, not separated into disability or able-bodied sports. It is a dream that already has ground globally, and one that I hope Singapore will join in. Since 1988, the Olympic and Paralympic Games have been held in the same city under a one bid, one city partnership between the International Olympic Committee and the International Paralympic Committee. Where the Paralympic Games benefit from the same standards in venues, infrastructure, and planning as the Olympic Games benefit from the added layer of inspiration generated by the Paralympics. The benefits have also been noticed down the chain. More international sports federations have or are beginning on paths of integration, like World Sailing and Union Cycliste Internationale. Further down, countries like the United Kingdom, Australia, and New Zealand have also adopted integrated models for their national sports strategies. Coaches and administrators are starting to realize that the spirit is the same among athletes, regardless of the number of limbs they have or whether they can speak. A swimmer who is intellectually impaired may need a little more instructions, but they still have to swim the right strokes, be the most efficient, and be the fastest to win, similar to someone without intellectual impairment. In UK, disability sport is part of the national sporting associations. For every national sporting association that has a disability sport in the association, more funding is given to support the association to help develop its para-discipline. The results of athletes with disabilities bring glory and funding to the association equally as athletes without. Funding benefits aside, integration promotes the sharing of knowledge and expansion of expertise. Athletes have a chance to perform better with deeper expertise, while communities develop greater understanding and respect for each other. The means might be different, but the spirit is the same. In spite of the different events we compete in, we share commonalities. The sporting scene in Singapore has been growing steadily in the past years. Both able-bodied sports and disability sports have produced results, and they continue to inspire the nation. I believe it is now timely to discuss how to use this inspiration to transform our systems and forge an environment that complements other efforts of inclusion. Holding up an important pillar of this environment is our National Sports Associations, also known as NSA. By representing all athletes with disabilities through the Singapore Disability Sports Council, instead of the sports they play, are we not putting the disability before the ability? If an agency is representing a sport nationally, should it represent the sport to everyone in the nation or only to those it deems fit? I believe a systemic transformation will motivate and complete individual transformation. If NSA is ready to make such a change, let's have our systems ready to support it. If NSA is not ready, then let's see how we can build an environment to better that probability. The world is catching up on this. Attitudes are changing, movements are shifting. At the 2002 Commonwealth Games in Manchester, England, parasports and able-bodied teams were fully integrated for the first time. Countries paraded the opening ceremony in their respective contingents, representing one nation and one dream. At the 2018 Commonwealth Games, our Singaporean athlete Toh Wei Song won a bronze medal in his S7 50-meter freestyle event, becoming the second Singaporean athlete to win a medal for swimming at the Commonwealth Games after Joseph Schooling in 2014. And he told me that the greatest moment of the Games was recognizing the universality of the medal he received. There were no differences, only athletes brought together by a common spirit, and the medal reflected that. If you looked at it, you could not tell if it was given to a para-athlete or an able-bodied athlete. You were an athlete, and that was enough. Local disability sports have started to pilot this transformation over the past few years. Sports that have been created with disability in mind, like boccia for individuals with severe cerebral palsy and goalball for individuals with visual impairment, have been promoted to able-bodied individuals as well and were very well received. How can we bring this transformation to a larger environment and help NSAs embrace similar changes? For sports like boccia and goalball, when there is no able-bodied equivalent, are our systems ready to accept them as NSAs if they meet the same criteria? I know it will not be easy. Most people are scared of change as a concept. But if we examine it, there is more things in sport that bring us together than separate us. More things to celebrate than to fight over. Let's use these commonalities to move forward and not let hurdles of small differences, like different technical rules or different equipment, block our view of the finishing line. If we can make a clean sport commitment, a safe sport commitment, I believe we too can make an inclusive sport commitment. How can we help national sports associations embrace this commitment? As an athlete, I'm very grateful for all the resources that have been committed to sport. As a Singaporean, I hope that we can include the agenda of integration into our investments so that they can give us not only returns on the individual, but for Singapore as a progressive nation. Thank you.